So I hope all of us are able to see the screen. Today we shall be discussing about HTML forms. And as we are all aware that forms, it's a method of collecting data from maybe various sources that is used for processing purposes. Like for example, we use forms to register students. Like when we reported here, we were given a form where we filled in our details, that is our names, our courses, and many other details. So the HTML forms still work the same way as the ordinary forms, whereby we use HTML forms to get maybe customer feedback, and then we send the data to the server for processing purposes. Then now people can make a decision out of what data they have collected from the forms. So the introduction to forms. So forms are usually a popular way of making the web pages interactive to the user, because that is the only way you can allow your customers to key in or to enter some information for you using through a form. So they are mostly used to collect user input that is sent to the server for processing purposes. So forms are they usually use a form tag, that is an opening form tag and a closing form tag. Because we have already covered other HTML tags, a form has its own unique tags that are embedded inside the HTML structure. So then we can look at the attributes of a form. Form has many attributes, starting with the action attribute, which specifies how data will be sent or where the data will be sent for processing. So in most cases, it uses a common gateway interface that receives the user input, then now processes the input for the purpose of decision making. Then we have another attribute that we call method. And method can either be a get or a post method, whereby it specifies the method of transferring form data to the web server. So when it comes to get, when the form method is equals to get, it does not necessarily specify the mode or how the server will process the data, but when it is post, it specifies how data will be processed, and mostly post is used for sending lengthy data to the server for processing purposes. So another attribute of a form is the name attribute, which specifies the name of the form, because in one page you can have more than one form. So if you are using more than one form in one page, then you can be able to specify a name, a unique name for each form. So the format of putting the form name is you put it on the opening form tag, whereby you can specify, like for example, when you look at my screen, you can see that form name is equals to my circle. Then now another form attribute is the input attribute, which is a very commonly used attribute with forms, because it is this attribute that allows the user to key in data or to enter data for the purpose of processing. So without the input attribute, you cannot necessarily gather information from the user. So the input attribute, it has its own attributes also, starting with the type. The type will give us the various methods of maybe getting the input from the user. The type could be text, it could be a password text, it could be a radio button, it could be a check button or a submit and reset, or even a file or an image. So types are many. We can have as many types of data as possible from the user. So far, let me hear your feedback. Anything that you've understood so far about forms? Jimmy? Jimmy, are you in class? What can you say about forms? Yes, 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 Yes. Okay, that is fine. Someone else who has a different view? Okay, you're welcome. Buvi. Yeah, that is it's quite in order. That is good. Then now, from now onwards, we shall be looking at the various input types. Because of time, we will be able to open Notepad and now start keying in data using the various types, like starting with the text type, that is an entry field for any text data that you will ever require to use in your forms. We shall also look at the value. What necessarily is the value in that, or what data is supposed to be fed inside that text control. Then now we can have the ID, which uniquely identifies a specific button or a specific control inside that form. So the reason why we use IDs is that they uniquely identify each and every form control inside your form, because you can have more than 3 field controls of the same type like text. Then now when you uniquely identify them, now you give them a unique ID to identify them. Then the type could also be a checkbox, whereby if you have, maybe you want the user to have various options to choose from, whereby you cannot restrict the number of choices a user can maybe give. Like for example, when you are selecting courses, you can select as many courses as you want. Those ones do not have any limits. Unlike when you are using a radio button, whereby you are supposed to choose only one option that is available. So for today, we shall cover up to that level. So from next class, we shall be looking at the checkbox, the radio buttons, and many other buttons, the reset button, the submit buttons, etc. etc. Any question? Any question? Okay, that is quite in order. Any other person with a question? Yes. Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Yes, yes, you should start working on it so that when we meet next class, we shall discuss about the outcome of that assignment. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll extend the class for like 10 minutes so that all of you can sign in. Okay, you're welcome. So thank you for attending our class. See you during our next lesson.